Hi everyone, Diana Rankin here with your weekly psychic soul messages and perhaps a prediction or two. This is the 39th week of 2019 and it is for September the 22nd to the 28th. And a happy fall equinox to everyone. That is falling actually this right now it's Friday, so that's falling on tomorrow. But by the time you listen to this, it'll probably be past because it's for starting with Sunday. Anyway, enough of that. We do have a question for Philip, and so we're going to look at that and read that to you. I want to just say thank you for coming. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for being here with me. I am so grateful. And thank you for telling your friends. And if I'm speaking anywhere near you, thank you for coming. I love you all. We will get a message from this book as well. This is the Master's Book of Answers by Phillip. And as you know, Phillip is my spirit guide. And this is just an oracle book. So each page has a different wisdom on it. So we'll get that down the road. You know, last week I mentioned to you that it looked like it was going to be a relatively quiet week for the U.S., but something could pop at the end of the week. Well, something certainly did pop thanks to a whistleblower. So we'll see what comes of that. Right now, it's just talk, and we'll see if there is an investigation and what comes of it. So it looks like this coming week, there's going to be some turmoil. There will be some things coming out that may surprise us, and yet it won't surprise us. It's almost like, we're almost getting used to it, unfortunately. I want to also thank Greta and all of the young people and everyone who joined the marches that are happening right now as I speak, all across the world, all around the world, for climate awareness and climate change, climate crisis, whatever name we put to it. Thank you for those of you who are working on that. Let's leave our children and our grandchildren a planet that they can live on. And we need to really look at climate change right now because, you know, we're already in the crisis and the weather is not going to get easier. It's going to get rougher, but that's not our question. And please do send me your questions. You can post them below in the comment sections, or you can just send them to my email, or I get them from Twitter or Facebook, any of the above, and I'll eventually get around to answering them. And this one came a couple of weeks ago with a couple of other questions that we had, so it kind of deserved its own week. And I'm going to read the question because that way it's just going to be easier for me to read the question rather than try to explain it. So I first of all asked Philip, before I get to your question, I asked Philip, what do you see taking place in the near future, specifically this coming week? And Philip answered by saying, more information will be revealed that will cause an uproar, but many will think nothing is being done about it. There are changes taking place, but they are not yet ready to be revealed. That time is coming soon, but for many this is not soon enough. Patience! I always say, those of us in America, we became Americans when we came into body to learn patience. That's one of the reasons we came here. Patience! We don't have a lot. And then Philip goes on to say, the equinox will have passed by the time others hear this, so we will address the changing of the seasons. This is an auspicious time to look within and rid oneself of that which is no longer needed. Even in the darkest of days, the mind can be filled with light. We suggest all make strides to do so. Even in the darkest days, the mind can be filled with light. And Phillip says, we suggest all make strides to do so. And then I said, thank you, Phillip. That brings us to our question from a viewer. And here we go. The viewer writes, I've been viewing the influence, and then they were speaking of dark spirits, as causing irreparable harm to some souls, putting them in destructive circumstances until they are so angry that they end up in a dark spiritual spiral down. I worry about the people in Syria and along the Mexico border, U.S.-Mexico border, as being in this situation, being so badly treated that they react in darkness in return, harming their own souls. And then it goes on to say, in an out-of-control classroom where things get so bad that people are dragged down in their development instead of being lifted up. And here's Phillip's answer to that. Let us begin by stating that if you think of this world you inhabit as a classroom, you will also think that life is meant to advance grade by grade into goodness as you learn each lesson. If you see life as an adventure, you will recognize the adventure is full of much more diverse situations rather than a steady progression. Life moves up and down, back and forth, around and around, in and out, and comes back on itself. Of course, there is learning that takes place, but is that not so with every adventure? Let us then look at the human experience as an adventure, not necessarily confined to a classroom, although that is part of the adventure, but only one aspect. Confining oneself to only one aspect limits the perspective. Let us go on now to dark spirits. A dark spirit is simply like energy that has banded together in the same way energy of every nature bands together. If the human allows their life to be filled with darkness, then they will attract to them darkness. This is not causing irreparable harm to the soul, however. The human can choose whatever experience they wish to have in the moment. Certainly outside circumstances are going to influence many, and yet this is not necessarily, let me reread that. Certainly outside circumstances are going to influence many, and yet this is not necessary. There is still free will of choice. Before human life, the soul chooses the experience to have in the human life. The soul may choose to experience circumstances of darkness or hardship to be the beacon of light within the dark. Or the soul may choose to experience the conditions they brought to another in a different life experience, or as you might say, a past life. A soul is a part of the consciousness of the respective soul family. Once that piece of the consciousness grows to want to experience more light, they will choose to move to a different soul group or stay within their family and be a beacon of light. This is not to say one soul family is of a higher development than another, but rather to say all development and all aspects of development have a purpose. You understand up because of its relationship to down. You know it in relationship to out. You know light because of its contrast to dark. What you choose to experience, you choose both before coming into this life and after. You are making the choice every moment. This being said, it is wise to remember that like attracts like. The experiences you wish to have are determined by your choices. Have we answered your question, dear one? Phillip asked, and I answer, I believe so, Phillip. We'll see. I leave that up to the viewers. I'd like to add, and this is me, I'd like to add that as humans, we wouldn't choose many of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We forget we chose the outline at a deeper level, and we just forgot to read the small print. And then Philip answers to that and says, yes, this is true, but you can always choose to get off the bus and take the train instead. And then I say, change the thoughts. Like attracts like, so when we change the thought, we change the circumstances. And Philip says, yes, precisely. This is the adventure, and this is the miracle. So that's our answer from Philip this week to that question about the dark souls. You know, I personally don't see people as evil, and I don't see dark souls in spirit world. Again, I see that, as Philip was explaining to us, that energy that comes together, and it seems to create a specific entity. Or if in our human lives we live in that darkness, that's not going to necessarily dissipate, when we move into spirit world. So the entity is merely somebody who chose dark over light, or a group that chose dark over light. And again, like attracts light, so we will go to where our energy is, and then the energy, like energy, will come to us, and it just increases that way until we make different choices. Shall we get a... By the way, everybody's fine here. Daisy's doing well. She's showing her age. She was sleeping, and so when I came back into the office, I didn't want to disturb her. And the kitties are all doing fine, and thank you for your prayers around Daisy especially. So the Master's Book of Answers by Philip. We think left page, right page, and then we just open randomly to a page. So are you thinking left or right? Okay, you got it? Left or right? I'm hearing right, but I always read left as well. And it still surprises me how well the message from here touches our message that we've just talked about. So here's what the right one. Happiness will not be yours if you contemplate only sadness. Happiness will not be yours if you contemplate only sadness. That's our message this week. And on the other side it says, that which angers you conquers you. That which angers you conquers you. Oh, how true that is. If we let somebody get under our skin, and if we really let them get angry, we're giving our power over to them. I'm not saying that I'm not saying this isn't easy. Life is, I don't think any of this is easy. But it's a reminder to keep bringing ourselves back to the point of love. Do I get angry? Oh, yeah. One of my teachers a long time ago, Jean Houston, she said, I said, I just want to live in grace. And she looked at me and she said, it always surprises people when you get angry and when they see your power, because they think of you as being this easygoing person, because they see the grace. And then the shaman shows up. She said, you are both the mystic and the shaman. So, yes, I do get angry. I get angry at misjustice. I get angry at the way people treat each other, unless they're treating each other with kindness and love. So please, let's treat each other with kindness and love. Let's treat each other with the goodness in our hearts, letting that come out. So we light the world. We don't add to the darkness. Let's add to the light. And a simple smile sometimes is all it takes. Everybody right now, almost everyone, maybe a few people are having an easy time of it, but pretty much almost everybody's having a tough time of it right now. The energy is really difficult, and the more sensitive you are, the more difficult that energy. Remember, it's not the surrounding circumstances, it's how we deal with them. I love you, my friends. Thank you for loving Daisy and me and all of us here. Thank you for accepting our love. That's very important that you do that. Let it in. And remember, we give when we breathe out. We receive when we breathe in. Be sure to receive as well as give. Until next week, I love you.